Hi, I'm Joy, and I want to know if you've ever been in that situation where you promise yourself you'll finally stop a small habit like soda, sweets, or smoking, but by the end of the day, you give in just one more time. You're not weak, you're not lacking discipline, and you're definitely not alone in this. What's really happening is that you're trying to fight a battle with the wrong tools. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why these small habits are actually the hardest to break and how to use brain science to your advantage. The truth no one tells you is that small habits are sneakier than they seem because they disguise themselves as normal things and fly under the radar of your awareness. While you know that stronger substances are obviously harmful, that can of soda looks totally harmless. But it's quietly wiring the same kinds of connections in your brain, only in a more subtle and constant way. These little habits aren't ruining your life all at once. They're slowly stealing your control like a tiny leak that drains your energy bit by bit. And listen, if you really want to transform your relationship with those habits that bother you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because I'm going to teach you neuroscience-based strategies that actually work. Not the same old just have willpower advice you've heard 1,000 times. We're going to dive into the discoveries of researchers from Stanford, Yale, and Harvard on how to finally break small habits by turning your brain into an ally instead of an enemy. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to quit that evening soda or stop checking your phone every 5 minutes? The answer is literally in your brain. And what I'm about to tell you can completely change how you see these small habits. Your brain has an amazing ability called neuroplasticity. It literally rebuilds itself based on your daily actions. Every time you grab that can or open Instagram, you're reinforcing specific neural connections, like paving a road in your brain. Here's the fascinating part. Researchers at Stanford discovered that trying to simply quit a habit is like leaving an empty hole in your mind. Your brain hates empty spaces and will try to fill them, usually by going back to the old behavior. That's why you might go 3 days without soda, but on the 4th day, you drink 2. The real strategy isn't elimination, it's substitution. You have to give your brain something new and engaging to do instead of the old habit. Once you understand that, everything changes. Think about it this way. If you always drink soda when you get home from work, your brain has already built a neural highway linking arriving home with opening the fridge. But here's the secret. You can build a brand new road that links arriving home with drinking a cold glass of lemon water. It may sound almost too simple, but that's exactly how it works. Your brain doesn't judge habits as good or bad. It only cares about efficiency and repetition. Have you noticed that when a craving for sugar or a cigarette hits, it feels like it will last forever if you don't give in? Let me share one of the most powerful things I've learned about how the brain works. That feeling of urgency has an exact expiration time. The dopamine loops that keep these small habits alive last for about 2 minutes. That's the time it takes for your brain to process the urge, reach its peak, and naturally start to decline. It's like a wave that rises, breaks, and then fades back into the ocean. During those 120 critical seconds, you're at your most vulnerable to falling back, but also at your most powerful to break the cycle. Researchers at Yale tested a simple technique that changed thousands of lives: the intentional pause. When that unstoppable urge comes, instead of fighting it or giving in right away, you just count to 120. It might feel like forever at first, but it's exactly the time your brain needs to realize you're perfectly fine without that trigger. 78% of people who use this technique for 21 days in a row managed to resist their small habits. Here's where the magic happens. You're literally reprogramming your automatic response to the impulse. At first, it's tough. Your brain will protest, make excuses, throw tantrums. But after about a week, something changes. You notice you can observe the craving without being controlled by it. It's like stepping off the emotional roller coaster and watching it from the outside, knowing it will pass soon. And when that happens, you discover a strength you never knew you had. Now, let me tell you about the biggest mistake I see people making when trying to quit small habits. And you've probably fallen into this trap too. You decide you'll never drink soda again, throw away every can in the house, announce your new healthy life to everyone, and then 3 days later, you have a glass at a birthday party and think, well, I already messed up, might as well have 2 more. This all-or-nothing mentality is one of the biggest saboteurs of progress, and I'll explain why it's so dangerous. Your brain is like a muscle. When you demand absolute perfection from it, you're asking it to lift extreme weight without warm-up. Dr. Roy Baumeister at the University of Florida discovered something fascinating. People who allow themselves controlled slips are 60% more likely to succeed long-term than those who demand total rigidity. What does that mean? If you're trying to cut down on sweets, it's actually better to allow yourself a dessert on Sunday than to go 100% strict and then end up eating an entire box of chocolates on Thursday. Total rigidity drains your self-control faster than you realize, and once it's gone, you have no mental energy left to resist. Think of willpower like your phone battery. You can use it for many things throughout the day, but if you spend it all at once trying to be perfect, you'll have nothing left for later. That's why people on extreme diets often end up overeating at night, or why those who try to quit social media cold turkey end up spending 3 hours scrolling one evening. The secret isn't perfection, it's consistency. Consistency with flexibility always beats perfection with rigidity. Once you understand this, you can start working with your brain instead of against it. Have you noticed how much easier it is to eat junk food when it's right in front of you, on the desk, or at the fridge door? That's because your environment is silently shaping your choices, and most people don't even realize it. Every object, every placement, every sight is sending subtle signals to your brain. It's like your home and office are whispering, "Go ahead, just one more." Once you see that environment influences decisions more than willpower, everything gets easier. A study from Cornell University showed the surprising power of visibility. People who kept soda in the fridge door, more visible, drink 32% more than those who kept it at the back. 32%, just from location. That means you can reduce your small habits drastically without superhuman willpower, just by reorganizing your space. Want to eat fewer sweets? Move them off the counter and into a higher cabinet. Want to use your phone less? Leave it in another room when you get home. Here's the most powerful strategy I can give you. Make the habit you want to break invisible, and make the good habit visible. Keep a bottle of water on your desk, but hide the soda. Put a book on your nightstand where your phone used to be. Swap the cookie jar on the counter for a bowl of fruit. It may seem too simple, but your brain makes thousands of automatic decisions based on what it sees first. When you intentionally shift those visual cues, you're hacking your own decision system, and the best part is, it works even when you know you're doing it. Let me ask you an honest question. When was the last time you gave in to a small habit? I bet it was in a moment of stress, fatigue, or anxiety, wasn't it? that's not a coincidence. There's a deep biological connection between stress and our small habits that most people completely overlook. When your cortisol levels spike after a tense meeting, heavy traffic, or an argument at home, your brain switches to survival mode and looks for instant relief. It's like it's saying, I'm under pressure, I need something that makes me feel good right now. And then you find yourself eating chocolate, smoking, or scrolling through Instagram without even thinking. Here's the thing. Your brain can't really tell the difference between being chased by a lion and your boss asking for a report. Stress is stress, and the response is always the same. Seek quick comfort. That's why you might go a week without soda, but the day you argue with someone, you drink 3 cans in a row. Researchers at the University of Michigan discovered a simple technique that reduces the chance of giving in to habits during stressful moments by 45%, the 4-7-8 breathing method. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. It may sound too simple, but this exact rhythm activates your parasympathetic nervous system and literally switches off the brain's emergency mode. And here's what impresses me most. When you learn to manage stress, you automatically reduce about 70% of your urges without even trying. It's like cutting the root of the problem instead of trimming the leaves. Whenever you feel tension rising and the urge hitting, stop for 30 seconds and do the 4-7-8 breathing 3 times. You'll notice the urgency drop dramatically, and you'll be able to make a conscious choice instead of reacting on autopilot. Stress management isn't just about feeling better, it's about taking real control of your decisions. Now let me share something that completely changed how I see breaking habits. Your brain is smarter than you think, and it doesn't accept no as a final answer. When you try to simply quit a habit without replacing it, it's like asking a child to give up their favorite toy without offering another. It just doesn't work. Your brain needs a replacement that satisfies the same sensory, emotional, or physical need as the old habit. If you drink soda because you like the fizzy sensation, plain water won't cut it. Your brain will reject the swap because it's not getting the expected stimulus. A study from Harvard Medical School followed 2,400 people trying to quit soda for 6 months. The results were eye-opening. Those who switched to flavored sparkling water had an 84% success rate, while those who tried to stop completely without any substitute had only 23%. The difference lies in understanding that your habit isn't just about sugar or caffeine, it's about the whole sensory experience. The bubbles, the sweet taste, the cold feeling, the ritual of opening the can, all of that needs to be replaced somehow. When you find an alternative that meets those needs, the transition becomes surprisingly easy. The key is being strategic with your substitutions. If you smoke to relax, chewing gum won't do the trick. You need something that actually calms you, like chamomile tea or breathing exercises. If you eat sweets out of boredom, replace them with something that also fights boredom, like puzzles or a hands-on hobby. The secret is mapping out exactly what need your habit is meeting and finding a healthier alternative that does the same. When you get the substitution right, it doesn't feel like you're depriving yourself. It feels like you're upgrading. That's when the real magic happens. Have you noticed that urges usually show up at the same times of day? It's not a lack of willpower. It's your body clock working against you. Your impulses follow predictable patterns tied to your circadian rhythm. Research from the U.S. National Institutes of Health identified 3 critical times when people are most vulnerable. Around 3 p.m., when energy naturally crashes, 8 p.m., the transition into relaxation, and 10:30 p.m., the subconscious preparation for sleep. If you can identify your personal risk times, you've already won half the battle. Think of your day as an emotional and energetic roller coaster. There are peaks and valleys, And it's in the valleys that you're most likely to give in. At 3 p.m., your cortisol is low, and your brain looks for a quick boost, hence the craving for sugar or caffeine. At 8 p.m., you're mentally shifting from work to relaxation, and your brain wants something that signals that shift: a cigarette, a glass of wine, or snacks in the fridge. And at 10:30 p.m., instead of winding down, many people end up glued to their phones as a way to decompress. Here's the power of this knowledge. When you know when temptation is coming, you can prepare in advance. If you always crave sweets at 3 p.m., plan a healthy snack at 2:30. If you usually want to smoke at 8 p.m., schedule a relaxing activity at that time. If you always end up scrolling late at night, leave your charger in another room after 10. It's like knowing exactly when someone might test your door. You can lock it before they arrive. When you work with your natural rhythms instead of against them, everything gets easier. Now, let me teach you the most powerful technique I've ever learned for handling small habits, and it goes against everything you've probably tried. Instead of fighting the urge or ignoring it, you're going to write it. Psychologist Alan Marlett from the University of Washington developed this revolutionary concept. Treat your craving like an ocean wave. It rises slowly, builds strength, peaks, and then naturally fades. Most people try to swim against the wave or run from it, but surfers know the secret is to ride it until it breaks on its own. Studies show urges last only 3 to 5 minutes. Not hours, not days, just a few minutes. When a strong urge hits, whether it's to smoke, snack, or drink, don't panic or give in right away. Instead, notice what's happening in your body. Where do you feel it? Chest, throat, stomach? How does it move? Does it grow, pulse, heat up? You're not trying to stop it. You're just observing, like a scientist watching an experiment. This small shift in perspective changes everything. And here's the amazing part. 67% of people who practice this technique for 8 weeks significantly reduce their unwanted habits without relying on brute willpower. It's like discovering a superpower you always had, but never used. When you stop being a victim of the impulse and start being an observer, something magical happens. You realize you can feel the craving without being controlled by it. That's the difference between being dragged by the current and floating consciously in the water. Once you learn the skill with small habits, you can apply it to any area of life where you want more self-control. So let me ask you, after everything you've just learned about neuroplasticity, dopamine loops, strategic substitutions, and all of these science-backed techniques, what's your excuse for staying stuck in your small habits? Because now you have tools that 99% of people don't know. You know you can rewire your brain, ride the waves of craving, hack your environment, and work with your natural rhythms instead of against them. The real question is, are you going to use this knowledge or let it sit in a drawer with all the other "someday I'll do it" ideas? Because your small habits won't disappear by themselves. They'll keep whispering excuses, making you believe tomorrow will be different. But now you have a conscious choice. Keep being a passenger in your own life or become the driver. Which version of yourself do you want to be 6 months from now? Here's what I suggest. Pick one small habit that bothers you the most, apply one of today's techniques, maybe the 2-minute rule, the environment shift, or the substitution method. Test it for a week and then come back here to share your results in the comments. And if you want to keep learning powerful strategies for self-control and personal transformation, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because every week I bring content that helps you become the person you always knew you could be.